I've been bagging all my Nintendo Switch games again, and they look so much nicer on the shelf now. So I want to give you a bit of the progress I've been making in my Nintendo Switch collecting. As you know, I'm a big fan of the system, and even though it hasn't really fulfilled its full potential in the last few years, I still love the hybrid nature of it. And for the longest time, for the last few years, I put all my games into little plastic protective bags. For example, here, a PS4 game, it has this little plastic bag around it, just to keep it from rubbing against the other games, scratching the case too much. For the longest time, I had my games in little boxes as well, or stored away in some kind of cupboard, and I just wanted to protect them a little bit more. Now that I have them all on my shelf again, I was thinking about, do I want to keep the bags around them? And honestly, just they feel a bit more protective and nicer in my hands when I have the sleeves on. So I really enjoy that, and it protects the game a bit better, of course. So for the Nintendo Switch, I had a big problem. A few years ago, I bought a lot of plastic bags to put them in. However, the company I get them from, which is a German company, they're just making the bags themselves, didn't have Switch protective sleeves. So what I did, I bought PSP sleeves. And as you may know, the PSP cases and the Nintendo Switch cases are relatively close in dimensions. They're a little bit slimmer than PSP cases, so they don't fit perfectly, but they were good enough to store them away on my shelf in the living room somewhere. So for the longest time, here I have an example, I had my Switch games in these PSP bags. Now, I was never quite happy with it. They're still moving around quite a bit. There's a lot of extra space and gaps everywhere. So I thought I ran out of DVD style protective sleeves, and I thought, let's just buy Nintendo Switch sleeves as well. So here is the difference between the two now. I'm not sure how well you can see it, but it's a lot of a better fit on this. It's just a little bit different, but it's a bit slimmer, it's a bit smaller all around, and it doesn't make a big difference when you just hold them both in your hands like this. But when they're lined up on the shelf, like all of this extra plastic everywhere, just makes it look like, it's like a storage area. Like you're there, you're protecting your games, but it doesn't look nice visually to the eye. So I invested into 200 protective sleeves. The only reason is because I needed a bit more than 100, but it would have cost more to get 150 instead of 200. So I got 200 sleeves for the Nintendo Switch, and I rebagged my entire Switch collection, and I kept one as a visual guide here to show the difference. It was a process that took probably a few hours, unsleeving everything, putting the new sleeves on, all of that. It takes a bit of time to do that. So really think about doing it right when you can. I didn't have the chance for that back then. So now it just looks visually a lot better. It doesn't just look like it's a bunch of plastic on the shelf anymore. Here, let me give you a look around again. You can barely see their inner sleeve. I would have personally preferred them a little bit tighter even, so they're still a bit baggy around the Switch games, but it looks a lot better than before, where there was just a lot of plastic sticking up here, and I don't know. It just never looked right, and now if you just look at it from afar, you would be none the wiser that all of these games would be in protective plastic sleeves. I'm very happy with my Nintendo Switch collection, even though I've been honestly considering maybe selling a few of them, because my collection goals have changed in the last few years, and I'm just not as interested in having everything anymore. I was always rather focused, but there are a few games that I could really do without. So I'm thinking about selling maybe a few of them, but on the other hand, most most of the games I would be willing to part with aren't worth that much. They have never been worth that much. And luckily or unluckily for my wallet, the games I really want are usually the more expensive ones in the collections. So I'm just going to keep a lot of them. So my Nintendo Switch collection, I'm not sure if I'm getting a lot more, honestly. I've not been very into the Switch output in the last year. We had a few cool releases like Rune Factory 3 here, for example, and a bunch of other games. But other than that, like all the first-party releases, even though we got stuff like Mario RPG, I'm just not that into anymore. Now in January, at the end of the week, we are getting the Another Code collection, which I'm really into. Like Another Code 1 is one of my favorite games of all time. And I'm super excited to play it in a new style, like fully 3D, fully remade. And then giving the sequel another try. I played that once on the Nintendo Switch, on the Nintendo Wii. It was quite all right, but it was too much text. It's a lot more visual novel style than adventure style. I finished it, it was nice, but I'm happy to give that one another go. Thank you very much for watching. I think the visual appeal of your collection to make you happy is very important. So, when you get something just a little bit better, you can be so happy with your collection. And even something that looks right like this when you have it on a shelf. You always have to consider you're putting your collection on the shelf. So keep in mind how it looks when it's all lined up. Similarly to, for example, PS2 games. I like that they're quite uniform, the PAL releases. Other people like the more messy bags of, for example, US PS2 games. It's all down to taste and preferences. In the end, you have to be happy with your collection. And I'm very happy with how my Switch games look right now. I thank you very much for watching. See you next time.